The blood moon rising. I remember the day I found it as if it were yesterday. The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the flea market on the outskirts of our quaint little town. It was one of those days where everything felt still. The heat pressed down on me, lingering and oppressive. As I walked through the narrow aisles with my dog Charlie, scanning the rows of vendors, frustration grew within me. The farm wasn't doing well this season. Pests, birds, and rodents were tearing through the crops with an almost savage determination. Clara and I had tried everything: scare tactics, traps, sprays, but nothing seemed to keep them away. It felt as if the very land itself was rebelling against us. Sometimes I wondered if Mr. Monroe was sabotaging us. He had been eyeing my land greedily for a while. But regardless of the cause, the outcome was the same. The crops were wilting, the soil dry despite my endless hours of watering, and every morning brought more damage. The farm was struggling, and so were we. We faced not just financial ruin, but the loss of ancestral land passed down through 7 generations. Losing it would mean losing a piece of ourselves. Claire's patience was wearing thin, though she never showed it outwardly. I could see it in the way she pressed her lips together when the kids weren't looking, or in the tightness of her shoulders at the kitchen table. We tried to budget for the week. We couldn't afford another bad season. The stress gnawed at us, turning our lively dinner conversations into tense silences. I was desperate, grasping at straws, literally, trying to find something, anything, that might help. I hoped maybe the flea market would offer something useful, even though I had no idea what I was looking for. That's when I saw it. Tucked between a pile of rusted tools, frayed ropes, and battered knickknacks was a scarecrow. It was old, worn out, and tattered, having survived far more summers and winters than it should have. Its burlap face was faded and sun-bleached, split in places, while the frayed edges fluttered in the wind. The clothes, a pair of ripped overalls and a threadbare flannel shirt, hung limp from its crooked frame, remnants of an era long forgotten. Despite its ragged appearance, something about it drew me in. Perhaps it was the unnatural way it stood out among the clutter, or the dimming light that seemed to surround it when I looked. I couldn't shake the feeling it was watching me, its dark, hollow eyes tracking my every move. The crooked smile stretched unnaturally wide, as if it knew a secret I didn't. Charlie seemed intrigued too. He sniffed it cautiously before placing his paw on it, almost as if testing its reality. Suddenly, a man's voice cut through the eerie silence. He was a small, hunched figure standing behind the stall, half hidden in the shadows beneath a wide-brimmed hat. His leathery skin, deeply lined with wrinkles, hinted at a long, hard life. His eyes were concealed in the shadow of the hat, making it impossible to guess his age. An instinctual urge told me to turn away the scarecrow, and the man unsettled me in ways I couldn't explain. "You're looking for something to keep the birds away, aren't you?" he said without glancing up. His voice was gravelly and dry, with a faint, old-fashioned accent. I blinked, startled by his accuracy. How could he know? I nodded slowly, unsure of what to say, my mouth suddenly dry. Then he looked up, meeting my gaze for a fleeting moment. "This here do the trick," he said, gesturing toward the scarecrow with a bony finger. "No birds, no rodents, no pests, you'll see." I hesitated, examining the scarecrow again. It looked as if it would fall apart if I so much as touched it. The wind tugged at its loose stitches, and I noticed a faint odor, musty, like damp earth mixed with decay. "Does it work?" I asked, my voice filled with skepticism. I didn't want to appear too desperate, but I was. The man grinned, revealing yellowed, uneven teeth. "It works," he said, his certainty unsettling. "Better than you think. Just set it up in your field, it'll do the rest." My gut twisted with unease, but despite the creeping dread, I handed over the little cash I had left. He took it without another word. I heaved the scarecrow into the bed of my truck, its hollow, straw-filled body thudding against the metal as I drove back home. When I arrived, the sun was setting, casting an orange hue across the farm. I glanced toward the house, where warm light spilled through the windows. Claire was inside, cooking dinner, while the kids helped her set the table. The smell of roasting chicken wafted into the air. As I parked near the front porch, Sir Sunrise, our rooster, quietly perched himself on the back of the truck, observing me as I unloaded the scarecrow. Sir Sunrise earned his name from my 8-year-old son, Luke, thanks to his remarkable habit of crowing at exactly 6 a.m. every morning, no matter the weather. He would march up and down the porch, ensuring the entire Smith household woke to his call. Oddly enough, that was the only time he ever crowed, even though he spent the rest of the day wandering the farm. Even stranger was the quiet friendship he shared with Charlie. They seemed to enjoy each other's company in a way that always surprised me. I hoisted the scarecrow onto my shoulders and made my way toward the field. The crops swayed in the soft evening breeze, rows of corn and wheat stretching out before me like sentinels. I chose a spot right in the middle for enough from the house, but close enough that I could still watch it from the upstairs window. I attached the scarecrow to a wooden pole already planted deep in the soil.